Well, I mean, the picture we are presenting overall is one of debt on an unsustainable path. And the main contributors to that are the fact that there are a number of elements of spending that put upward pressure on spending, while tax as a share of GDP is projected to be broadly stable or slightly falling because of the loss of fuel duty. So it's the combination of pressures on spending from a number of sources, of which pensions is a big one.
The nights are getting longer, the temperatures are dropping fast, and for millions of pensioners across the United Kingdom, this winter feels colder than ever, not just because of the weather, but because of what's happening behind closed doors in Westminster. Imagine working your entire life, paying taxes, contributing to the system, believing that when your time comes, that same system will take care of you. Now imagine being told, as the first frost hits your window, that the help you counted on to keep warm might not come at all. That's the reality this November 2025. Reality shaped by winter fuel payment cuts, an £800 million missing fund, and a stealth tax that's quietly tightening its grip on pensioners already struggling to make ends meet. So, what exactly went wrong? Where did the money go? And how are pensioners supposed to survive this winter without the support they were promised? Let's break it down piece by piece. For years, the winter fuel payment has been a lifeline. Every winter, millions of pensioners received between £300 and £600 to help cover heating costs. It wasn't charity. It was support, recognition that people who spent decades building this country deserve warmth and dignity in their later years. But this year, everything changed. In early November 2025, the government quietly confirmed what many feared: the winter fuel payment is being cut for hundreds of thousands of pensioners. Eligibility has been tightened. Unless you're on pension credit, income support, or certain disability benefits, the payment you depended on may have been slashed or stopped altogether. For some, that means losing £500 or £600 of support at the worst possible time of year. Officials say it's part of a targeted approach, meant to focus funds on those most in need. But that explanation hasn't convinced everyone. Because for many pensioners who fall just above the threshold, those who've worked hard, saved a little, and receive small private pensions, the message is cruelly simple: you're not poor enough to get help, but not wealthy enough to manage without it. Across Britain, stories are pouring in. People who've done everything right, now facing choices no one should have to make. In Manchester, 76-year-old Barbara says she started turning off her heating at night, wearing 2 jumpers to bed, because she can't afford to keep it on. In Wales, Jim and Sandra, both in their early 80s, say they'll skip Christmas dinner this year just to make sure they can pay their energy bill. And in Scotland, Age UK reports a surge in calls from elderly people terrified of how they'll cope through December. It's not just about money. It's about security. About respect. About what kind of country the UK wants to be. The government calls these changes fiscally responsible. Critics call them short-sighted and cruel. Because fuel poverty isn't a line on a spreadsheet. It's a real, growing crisis. According to National Energy Action, more than 1.5 million pensioner households are now living in fuel poverty. That's the highest number in nearly a decade. And just when pensioners thought it couldn't get worse, another story broke, one that sent shockwaves through Parliament. An internal Department for Work and Pensions report uncovered an £800 million discrepancy in pension-related funds. £800 million missing, unaccounted for, or under review, as officials prefer to say. How does that happen? According to leaked documents, the issue goes back to the government's digital migration project, the program designed to modernize the pension system. Somewhere between transferring old records, reconciling overpayments, and merging IT systems, hundreds of millions of pounds appear to have vanished. Opposition MPs have called it one of the largest accounting failures in DWP history. Yet the department insists the money isn't lost, just pending reconciliation. But for pensioners, that excuse rings hollow. Because when ordinary people make mistakes, if they misreport a benefit, if they receive an overpayment, the government is quick to act. Demands letters arrive, repayment plans are enforced, and penalties are issued. So why is there no same urgency when the department itself misplaces almost £1 billion of public money? A retired nurse from Birmingham put it perfectly. If I lost even £80, they'd chase me down. But when they lose £800 million, it's just being looked into. It's not fair. It's not right. And she's not alone. Across the country, that sentiment is growing, frustration turning to anger, anger turning to disbelief. Because this isn't just about numbers. It's about priorities. As if cuts and scandals weren't enough, there's another blow quietly hitting pensioners, one that many didn't even see coming. Taxes. You see, while pensions are technically increasing thanks to the triple lock system, which guarantees rises based on inflation, earnings, or 2.5%, whichever is higher, the personal tax allowance hasn't budged. It's been frozen at £12,570 since 2021 and is set to stay frozen until 2028. That means as pensions go up, more pensioners cross the tax threshold and start paying income tax for the first time. For many, it feels like a betrayal. Because what's the point of getting a small pension rise if the government takes part of it straight back? Experts are calling this a stealth tax, a hidden way to increase revenue without ever raising rates. In simple terms, your pension may look bigger on paper, but your wallet feels smaller. The Office for Budget Responsibility estimates that 1.2 million more pensioners will pay income tax this year than 5 years ago. That's nearly double the number from 2020. For someone getting a full state pension and a small private pension, that could mean losing £300 to £600 a year to tax money that could have covered heating, groceries, or medication. It's no wonder financial advisors are calling it the quietest squeeze in modern pension history. Listen to the people actually living through this, and you'll hear the same story again and again, a story of frustration, exhaustion, and disappointment. Margaret, a 79-year-old widow from Leeds, says she feels invisible. I did everything I was supposed to. Worked, saved, never asked for handouts. And now they tell me I don't qualify for heating help. It's humiliating. In Cornwall, 84-year-old George says he's using his credit card to pay for gas. I've never had debt in my life. But now I'm borrowing to stay warm. That's the truth of what's happening. And across online communities, hashtags like #ProtectOurPensioners and #FuelFairness are trending. People are sharing their bills, their stories, their fears. One post reads, "Last year I could afford to heat my home and still eat properly. This year, I have to choose." It's heartbreaking, but it's also a wake-up call. Because when the elderly, the generation that paid in for decades, start feeling abandoned, something is deeply broken. So what does the government say? In Parliament, the Chancellor insists these measures are necessary to keep the economy stable. The official line is simple: resources are limited, debts are high, and help must be targeted. He argues that focusing support on those most in need ensures fairness and sustainability. But critics aren't convinced. They point out that targeting sounds good on paper until you realize it leaves thousands of people just above the cutoff point struggling just the same. Opposition parties have called for a full restoration of the winter fuel payment for all pensioners over 65 and a public audit into the missing £800 million. But so far, there's been little action, just statements, reviews, and promises to look into it. Meanwhile, energy prices remain high, food inflation continues to bite, and the people affected by these cuts are running out of time. Behind the scenes, pressure is mounting. MPs, even within the ruling party, are warning that these decisions could backfire politically. Many older voters have historically supported the government, trusting that their interests would be protected. But this winter, that trust is fading fast. Local councils are scrambling to create emergency funds for vulnerable residents, but most admit the budgets simply aren't enough. Charities are stepping in where the state is stepping back. Community centers are turning into warm hubs, where pensioners can spend a few hours in heated rooms, just to escape the cold at home. It's a sobering picture, a modern Britain where senior citizens are relying on charity and crowdfunding just to stay warm. And all the while, that £800 million question remains unanswered. Where did the money go? Beyond the politics and the numbers, there's a human cost that can't be ignored. Cold weather doesn't just make people uncomfortable. It kills. Every winter, thousands of older people die from cold-related illnesses, pneumonia, hypothermia, heart conditions made worse by freezing homes. Health experts warn that with the current cuts, this year could see a tragic rise in preventable deaths. Doctors are already reporting more cases of respiratory illness linked to unheated homes. Ambulance services are bracing for increased emergency calls. And charities say they're seeing older people come in simply to sit somewhere warm, because they can't afford to turn their heating on at home. It's a situation that should never happen in a country as developed as the UK. So what's really going on here? Is this just another bad winter? Or is it a sign of something deeper, a system stretched beyond its limits? Experts say it's both. Britain's population is aging. Life expectancy is rising. More people are drawing pensions than ever before, while fewer are paying in. Add in inflation, energy price spikes, and government debt, and the strain is obvious. But here's the uncomfortable truth: none of this happened overnight. It's the result of years of political short-termism, governments kicking the can down the road, avoiding tough choices, and leaving the most vulnerable to pay the price later. That later has arrived. And it's hitting in the middle of winter. For those watching who are directly affected, there are still a few important steps to take. First, check if you qualify for pension credit. Even if you think you earn too much, check again. Thousands of pensioners miss out every year because they don't realize they're eligible. Second, contact your local council. Many councils in England, Scotland, and Wales have household support funds designed to help people struggling with fuel costs. Third, speak to your energy supplier. Most major providers have hardship schemes or emergency credit options. And finally, stay informed. Organizations like Age UK, Citizens Advice, and Independent Age regularly update guidance on how to access help, appeal decisions, and avoid scams targeting pensioners. Knowledge won't solve the crisis overnight, but it can make a difference.